what about we talk to Unbeliever, he, him in Illinois? It sounds like you've got a question about how to come out to your parents. So, hey, you're on with Jim and SR.
Hi, Jim and SR. Hi, I've never heard of SR, but I do know about you, Jim.
Oh,
that's fair. I'll cry a little later, but that's all right. I promise. We'll be okay.
Sure. Okay. All right. This is all new to me. So, hi. So I guess I'll just jump right into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm an atheist, and I'd like to say that I've very recently come to terms with that after long thinking about it and just talking about it with my siblings and my siblings, like they know, they accept me for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's awesome.
my parents don't know, and
Okay.
I just don't know how. Like I really wish I could tell them, but my siblings have pointed out to me that that the thing is, the stress that I face now from not telling them is nothing compared to the stress of what would happen if they were to find out. And
Okay.
I worry about like them like literally following me everywhere I go to try to reconvert me, and that is not something that I want to put up with.
Right.
And
yeah, just to be clear,
also,
Unbeliever, just real quick, just so that I'm on the same page. Were your siblings saying the stress on you of coming out, or the stress on your parents of coming out? Because I'd say if the stress is on you, if that's going to be extra, definitely take that into consideration. On the flip side, though, if like your parents are going to be stressed out because you're now just being yourself, right? Then that's kind of a shitty reason not to, right? Like they shouldn't be able to dictate your life like that just because they're going to have a sleepless night, But yeah, we're just clarify for me. Were your siblings saying that the stress was going to be more so on you?
Yes.
Okay.
They are saying that the stress is going to be more so on me.
So where does that stress on? Because I'm in the same boat. I'm not out to my parents, which is amazing considering that I do this show, and I'm all over Facebook and Twitter. But they're also not into technology at all. My mom thinks that her 5-year-old iPad that I gave her is really, really cool. But so I don't have any stress in not telling them. I honestly don't care one way or the other. I just don't know of any way to do it without causing more problems than the whole situation is worth to me. And
Right.
So I'm kind of in the opposite boat in terms of stress. I have no stress whatsoever not telling my parents. So what is the stress that you're feeling about telling your parents?
I totally get what you're saying, Jim. And the thing is, the stress is insofar as I love my parents very much, and I just don't want them to like. I really wish that they would, accept me for who I am, accept that I don't have to believe everything and literally everything that they tell me about, their God, about God and the prophet and all that stuff, and I just wish that they would like be a little more understanding, a little more accepting of that. I guess that was the stress I'm having.
Yeah, and I don't say it again. I'm coming from a slightly different point of view. My parents do accept me for who I am, but because my atheism, even though I do the show, I'm on Facebook having fun in arguments and doing all this other stuff that I do, semi-activist. That doesn't mean they don't need to know that part because that part is going to cause more problems than it's worth. So, but I'm not fake around them. I don't go to church with them. I don't pray with them.
Oh.
I don't do any of those things with them. But, when my uncle died and he had his funeral, I went to the funeral. I didn't go because I particularly enjoy a Catholic funeral. I went out of respect for my family and the people who do believe and to help them grieve. And I didn't have to be fake or anything else. And some of my cousins do know. one of my cousins made the joke of, well, it doesn't look like you got struck by lightning yet. And I caught myself before I went into the whole diatribe, right, to activist mode, so to speak. I says, yeah, that's not a conversation for here. I'm just here for you guys. And so, that was cool. But, and this is kind of different as an atheist versus, say, coming out as I think, as queer or, non-CS, LGBTQIA, because that is slightly a whole different thing, right? Because you have a whole different lifestyle that's based on that. With atheism, what are we really doing, right? If not going to church, right, if you want to keep your relationship with your parents, maybe you do go to church for that, right? Not because you believe it, because it makes your parents happy and you want to keep that relationship. But if you're going to try and tell them what I would not, don't make it a big thing like, Mom, Dad, we have to talk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because remember, did your parents ever do that to you just before they were about to lay out a big punishment, or you've done something wrong and they've caught you?
Yeah, they have. Also, one more thing, Jim. I feel like I should clarify. I was a Muslim, but the thing is that I've really noticed a really stark difference between like Islam and Christianity as far as, there's a certain level of, I don't know if this is the right word, but strictness. Like I've noticed that like Islam is like, they're very, to put it lightly, they're very, 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 very highly passionate about their religion, insofar as like any kind of criticism thrown their way is seen as an attack on them.
Right.
And yet I've come to the mindset of like, if I or or any other critic of Islam try to like show some criticism, it's like I want to try to demonstrate that I'm not attacking you personally. I'm not attacking the believer personally. I'm just trying to criticize and demonstrate why there are so many like contradictions in the religion, or there's some stuff like so much shit that just does not make sense to me and doesn't jive with me.
Yeah,
right.
and you're right
and
when it comes to just real quick. You're right when it comes to there is a specific doctrine in Islam about keeping together the ummah, right? Keeping together the community as a whole. And when you disagree with your brothers and sisters in Islam, you're supposed to take them aside and privately counsel them, give them the hikmah in a place where it won't sow division and all of that. And that can be very tough to get through, especially because, like you said, sometimes just literally pointing out that we don't have an example of Muhammad splitting the moon, right? Or,
no, not at all.
Right. And then, like, we've definitely looked at it. So it can come off as... Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just adding on to that really quick. I was going to say that I've actually seen like a 2010 NASA, like literally 3 sentences, the NASA doctor, like, debunked that altogether. And,
right.
And yeah, so anyway, go on.
Well, that just the idea that, what you said in terms of trying to figure out a way how to criticize and push back, but in a manner that doesn't come off as, just me just calling Muhammad a pedophile and moving on, right? I think one of the best ways that you can do that is by showing that you are willing to learn in some aspects. Because there's a lot of different doctrines out there, right? I mean, you know better than I do, right? The differences between Sunni and Shia, right? And Qurayshi and all of these different, aspects, and really trying to understand where they're coming from could be, a little tack that actually makes them realize, okay, maybe he's not being so much of a dick, right? But
and I'm not trying to.
Yeah, and maybe kind of like what Jim was saying, where, if you don't present this in such a way as being like, hey, this is a really big fucking deal we're about to talk about, and maybe just be a little bit more casual with it and they say, oh, it's Ramadan. I'm sure you're fasting, right? And you go,
I'm not.
I
I'm
haven't
not.
really
No.
I haven't done that this year, Or they say, oh my gosh, it's time, we're all gonna pray, we're all gonna face Mecca, and you go, I'm gonna head home. Maybe something like that starts to just normalize it a little bit more for them. Makes it more palatable.
Yeah.
For sure. And I do want to kind of expand on Jim, something that you said earlier. The thing is, like, so I've not prayed. Like, I live by myself. I've been out of my parents' house for quite some time now, and
Good.
I cannot remember the last time I've genuinely prayed of my own volition on my own. I can't remember the last time that I hate Ramadan. I don't like it. I think it's ridiculous. I just don't want to be like anything involved with it. But you mentioned something earlier, Jim, about like when you go to see your parents, like you don't pray, you don't go to church or anything like that. Unfortunately, like I really wish I had that luxury, but like
I get it.
I do feel like I really feel like I have to fake it around them.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, I'm the kind of person that I hate being fake. I like to be honest and frank about who I am. And whenever like I go home and I have to put on that veneer of religion, of piety, and it just, a part of me dies inside every single time.
I get that.
Yeah, and I get that too, and I think that's the difference between us is I don't, because I don't see it as being fake, right? But also I'm not in the same boat as you, and my parents aren't nearly as religious as yours, so there are huge differences to take into account. Lead with empathy, and start with the end in mind, and just realize that there may not be a good way to do it if your parents' personal identity of who they are, is rooted in your being Muslim. That's going to create a problem, and I don't know that there's a good way around it, other than you're going to have a blowout of some kind, and hopefully you can put the pieces back together again, and also get them to respect your boundaries if they want to keep a relationship with you.
And that's definitely a hard line to figure out where that exists. And I think this is one of those, kind of good, kind of bad moments where it's like, at the end of the day, the answer really is going to be a lot on you. And that's really shitty, because it's like, oh, great, so I don't have like a playbook. I don't exactly know what to do here. But the good news about that is you personally, without anybody else telling you what's the correct way to do this or not, you get to decide for yourself and say, look, it is more important to me that my 90-year-old grandmother, let's say, who is in hospice, it is more important to me that the last few weeks of her life we have a good relationship than it is for me to say this, or vice versa. You're not a bad person for making sure that you're safe in this situation. You're not a bad person. And I agree with you, Jim. I don't think it's fake. I think you are in a place where you recognize the risk and you recognize the harm to yourself and potentially others. And that is good.
Yeah.
That is good that you do that. I know it sucks though, and I'll shout this out as many times as I can. There's a huge community of people here that have gone through this, and we're getting more and more ex-Muslims, and I love that because I love to see more apostasy in the Muslim community. I'm a big fan of it. So
no, I want, ever since I started to realize, I started with watching a lot of YouTube channels like Dark Matter 2525 to most recent one, Apostate Prophet and stuff like that. And it really got me to start really thinking critically and, understand what do I really believe in this stuff? Like, do I really have a good reason, justifiable reason to keep going like this? And eventually, yes, of course, my answer was no, obviously. I don't worry. like I live in obviously, I live in Illinois, part of a Western country, but I don't worry about like the obvious, like, death to apostates.
That's good.
The rule that I hear all the time, because like I live in the West. I mean,
Right.
even though, like, but the thing is, I know it sounds really silly to say this, but the fact that, like, I have not ruled that out is just what also is one of the things that also,
Right.
For sure.
kind of,
Right.
For sure.
yeah.
There's a lot of good reason to be cautious, and I don't
Yeah.
I don't think you are, but I don't think this is a decision to take lightly. I think it's right that you wrestle with this and you find out where it is for you that hits that balance of, I get to be me, but I also get to know that I'm safe and secure. Because without that, it's, hey, great, you said you were an atheist, but if you're literally getting dragged out into the street and stuff, it's not super helpful, I think. So
Yeah. And just one other thing you might want to try, since your siblings seem to be more accepting, maybe try some role play with your siblings on how they think their parents will react before you do it for real. Try and get some practice in, run some ideas behind them. Because I know, like, and this may not be your case, I don't know, but my sister and I's case, we have very different views of who our parents are, because we're very different people. And so if I were to do it, to try and come out to my parents, I would definitely run some things by her and see what she thinks, because she knows them slightly better than I do. But that may be something to try as well. And I wish we had better answers for you than the ones we've given you. It's not a topic
Well,
that we've got good answers for.
yeah, it is tough.
I understand. No, I just I feel like a lot of it is just me getting it off my chest, and also because I wanted to call in to the Atheist Experience and just talk with cool guys like you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, call us back.
Yeah, let us know how it goes.
Yeah, tell us what worked or what didn't. You could be invaluable to helping
Absolutely.
tens of thousands of other apostates. Like, how great would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
If I ever get to that point of actually getting to tell them, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but if it ever does happen, then yeah, for sure, I'll definitely call back.
All right.
Sweet.
Good. Fantastic. Good luck.
Alrighty.
We appreciate you,
Thank you so much.
Unbeliever. Oh, I think I cut you off a little bit,
Oops.
but that's okay, because again, we really do appreciate it. I think
Yeah.
those calls are really super valuable, because for you and I, it's tough sometimes to remember how that was like, how difficult that was, especially when you've been so far away from religion.
Yeah, and for me, it's just the decision not to tell my parents was made a long time ago, and I have had absolutely no reason to revisit it.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, I'm not talented enough to have that kind of discussion with my parents. So
It's weird. People seem to say, oh, your stuff helped me deconvert or helped my parents deconvert, and it's like, well, why the fuck can't I get my parent?
because it's our parents.
That's probably right. That's probably right.
It's a whole different thing when you're looking from the outside in than when you're in the middle of it, and your parents have this view of you. I was an altar boy, and so my mom thought for a long time I might become a priest.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's a whole thing there.
Pastor Barrows has a nice ring to it, honestly.
Not really. Because it wouldn't be Father Barrows, it'd be something completely different. But yeah, it's just it's really, really hard for a lot of folks, and I'm not sure it's absolutely necessary to live an authentic life to come out as an atheist all the time.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's entirely a personal choice and your relationship with your parents.
Yeah.
So
I agree.